Okay, let's unpack this a bit. What does it really mean when we talk about being on a path, personal transformation?
Right, or genuinely being something, having an identity.
Exactly. Is it about the outside stuff, the titles, maybe the way someone looks?
Or is it something deeper, something happening inside?
That's what we're exploring today. We're doing a deep dive into this really fascinating ancient story. It's from the Dhammapada commentary, Buddhist tradition.
Ah, the commentary literature. Rich stuff there.
This one's called Aññatarapabbajitavatthu. Bit of a mouthful.
Hey, yeah. It basically means the story of a certain renouncer or ascetic.
You'll find it in section 269, chapter 8, if you're looking it up. And our goal here, really, is to see what this old text tells us about spiritual identity.
And it really challenges some very common ideas about appearance versus what's going on internally, the whole internal purification aspect.
So the story kicks off in a familiar place for some listeners, maybe, Jetavana Monastery.
The Buddha's often residing there in the text, yes,
Yeah.
a hub of activity.
Picture this place, monks, seekers, lots of discussion, meditation.
A real center for learning and practice.
And into this scene comes our main character. He's a Brahmin.
Okay, so from the priestly, scholarly class in ancient India, traditionally, often by birthright.
Right, but this specific guy, he'd already taken a big step. He'd renounced worldly life, become an ascetic, a pabbajita.
But importantly, following practices from outside the Buddha's specific teachings, right?
Exactly. So he already had this external marker. He looked the part. He'd done the outward action of renouncing.
He'd check that box, so to speak.
And this is where his thinking gets, quite specific. He thought, okay, the Buddha calls his disciples pabbajita.
The renunciates within his own community.
And I am also a pabbajita. I've renounced too, so...
Surely he should recognize me as one, call me one too.
Yeah, he really believed his existing status, that outward act, deserved the Buddha's recognition.
He wanted that validation based purely on the external label and action he'd already taken. It's a very human thing of want, isn't it?
Absolutely. We often do look for that external stamp of approval.
We do. It's almost like confusing the uniform with the qualification. Putting on the lab coat doesn't automatically make you a scientist.
Good analogy.
And it's often easier, isn't it? Changing
Right.
clothes or titles is more straightforward than, digging into our own issues, our own defilements.
So this Brahmin, he doesn't just think this. He goes right up to the Buddha
Bold move.
and asks him directly, basically saying, hey, call me pabbajita too.
Yeah.
He's seeking that direct validation.
He put him on the spot.
Yeah, he really did. And the Buddha's response, classic Buddha, really, very direct.
No beating around the bush.
None. He just states quite clearly, I do not call someone a pabbajita based merely on this much.
Pointing presumably to the outward signs, the simple fact of having renounced in that external way.
Exactly. Just that isn't enough.
And that immediately shifts the whole conversation, doesn't it? It's a pivot.
Completely. He wasn't saying the Brahmin's renunciation was worthless, maybe, but
it wasn't the defining factor. The Buddha then clarifies. He says someone is called a pabbajita because of the expulsion of the defilements of impurities, the kilesa,
Yeah.
getting rid of the inner muck, basically.
Wow. So it's not what you look like or what you call yourself?
It's what you've managed to cleanse from within. It moves from the external action to the internal state, the internal process.
Yeah, that's a much higher bar and probably quite challenging, even back then.
Oh, absolutely. It's revolutionary, really. Still is, he's saying. Don't just act the part, be the part.
And that being is
IPF.
ongoing.
Precisely. It's this continuous process of shedding what holds you back, the unwholesome stuff.
Yeah.
Way harder than just changing your lifestyle externally.
Okay. So let's really make this clear. The Buddha then recited a verse, right?
Yes, a powerful, concise verse to nail down this true meaning of spiritual identity. And it redefines three really key terms.
Which term?
Brahman, samana, and pabbajita itself. The very term the Brahman was asking about. The verse goes, Pahitapo hi brahmano samakaryaya samakaryaya samatamatano malaya tasma pabbajitoti.
Okay, that's dense. Let's break that down. What's the core meaning there? How does he redefine those terms?
Right. So first, Brahman Brahma. Traditionally, about birth, lineage, ritual purity.
Yeah, born into it.
But the Buddha here defines it as one who has expelled evil. Pahitapapo. Simple as that.
So it's about your actions, your character, freedom from wrongdoing, not your family tree.
Exactly. A huge shift. Then samana, often translated as ascetic or contemplative.
Someone who looks peaceful, maybe.
That's the image. But the Buddha defines it as one who lives in equanimity. samakarya. And the commentary clarifies this means
Yes.
acting with all unwholesome things pacified. Sabba kusalani samatpakarena. It's an inner peace that comes from actively stopping the negative stuff inside.
So not just looking calm, but having actually quieted the inner turmoil, the greed, the anger, all that.
That's the idea. Deep inner stillness achieved through practice.
Okay, that's profound. And finally, pabbajita, the word that started it all.
Yes, pabbajita, the renouncer. The Buddha explains this as one who drives away or dispels their own impurities. Pabbajayando, atano, malat vinodento karati.
Their own impurities. Like what?
The source gives examples like greed ragati. Basically, the mental defilements. And the verse ends with tasma, therefore. Therefore, because of this active driving away of one's own inner stains, one is truly called a pabbajita.
So the name, the identity, it comes because of the inner work. It's earned internally, not just adopted externally.
Precisely. It's a result, not a starting point based on appearance.
That's quite the redefinition. It strips away all the external focus we often have, doesn't it?
It really does. It gets right to the core, the internal transformation.
But just to play devil's advocate for a second, does the external act count for nothing then? Taking the vows, wearing the robes, living that life?
That's a fair question. And I think the Buddha's point isn't that they count for nothing. It's about priority.
Okay.
The external things can absolutely support the inner work. They can be helpful structures, reminders, expressions of commitment.
But they aren't the definition.
Exactly. They are potential means, maybe even reflections of progress, but they are not the end goal or the defining characteristic itself. The definition lies in that inner purification.
Got it. So what happened to the Brahmin after hearing all this? It must have been quite an aha moment.
A huge one. The text says that right at the end of this discourse, this teaching, the Brahman established himself in the fruit of stream entry.
Sotapatifala.
Which is a big deal in Buddhism.
A very big deal. It signifies the first irreversible stage of awakening, a profound spiritual breakthrough, a fundamental shift in his understanding and being.
Wow. So the teaching had an immediate transformative impact.
Absolutely. And the text adds that the teaching was beneficial for everyone there, not just the Brahmin.
Suggesting this is a universal principle applicable to anyone listening. I think so. What's really fascinating here, the core insight, it's this timeless message, isn't it?
Yeah.
That genuine status, whether spiritual or just, authentic personal growth, it isn't about the label you wear or the role you play externally.
It's the inner state.
It's the inner state, achieved by that really active, conscious work of dispelling our own junk, our inner defilements. It's about being it, not just looking like it.
And that feels incredibly relevant today, even outside of a monastic context. It's not just about ancient monks or Brahmins.
Not at all. It applies to anyone trying to live more wisely, more peacefully. It means that true wisdom and purpose, they come from that internal work.
Regardless of your job, your social status, how you look.
Exactly. The real work is inside.
Which brings us to maybe a final thought for everyone listening, something to mull over.
Okay.
This story raises a pretty important question for each of us, I think. What impurities, what unwholesome habits or tendencies might you be actively working to drive away in your own life right now?
That's a powerful reflection.
And how might that ongoing internal purification, that inner cleansing, how might that actually redefine your own sense of who you are, your purpose?